Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're trying to figure out how the most advanced financial institutions are totally transforming their decisioning systems for 2026, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to dive straight into a clear, actionable blueprint for architecting a modern, unified AI credit underwriting platform.
All right, here is our agenda for today. We're going to cover 1. Why legacy underwriting fails. 2. The cloud-native foundation. 3. The intelligence core. 4. The XAI compliance mandate. And finally, 5. Building the unified platform. Let's just jump right in.
Section 1. Why legacy underwriting fails. You might actually think your current underwriting architecture is working perfectly fine, but our sources across the industry are revealing a pretty stark reality. Legacy systems aren't breaking loudly with alarms going off. They're actually failing silently. The decisions are still being made, sure, but the foundation underneath them, it's cracking.
To really put this into perspective, there's an estimated $3.3 billion, with a B, in synthetic identity exposure just hiding in plain sight across lender portfolios right now. That is not a rounding error, that's a structural collapse. We're talking about fabricated identities slipping right past traditional credit checks simply because legacy systems are, they're looking at the wrong signals.
And this stat really hits the nail on the head. First-party fraud now accounts for 36% of all reported fraud globally. Think about what that means. Real people are misrepresenting their finances, defaulting, and basically tricking your systems into booking it as a pure credit loss instead of what it really is, a fraudulent attack. And the so what here is absolutely crucial. Your credit models actually learn from these contaminated outcomes. So instead of getting smarter, they're literally getting worse over time.
So how do we fix these contaminated models? Well, we absolutely have to ditch legacy systems that evaluate signals in dangerous isolation. We need to move toward an AI-native approach. Instead of keeping fraud, credit, and compliance locked in completely disconnected silos that rely on slow, manual reviews, an AI-native approach builds a unified, real-time layer packed with dynamic context.
Moving on to Section 2, the cloud-native foundation. You simply can't run 2026 AI on 2015 infrastructure. It just doesn't work.
To process these massive oceans of alternative data without crashing under the weight, your 2026 platform has to transition away from clunky monolithic architectures. By shifting to microservices running on Kubernetes, you're unlocking massive deployment speed. Instead of one tiny glitch bringing down your whole underwriting engine, which is a total nightmare, faults stay contained. You scale exactly what you need, exactly when you need it.
And by utilizing event-driven communication tools like Apache Kafka, for example, if one microservice temporarily drops, events just buffer. They don't trigger some cascading failure across your entire system. It completely transforms the resilience profile of your platform. No data gets lost, and the whole shebang just keeps running smoothly.
Plus, to keep total control and auditability, modern platforms rely heavily on GitOps. This ensures every single infrastructure change is logged. And trust me, that is absolutely vital for the compliance requirements we're going to talk about in a minute. If something breaks, rollback is just a simple command. If an auditor asks, "Hey, what changed last Tuesday?" Boom, the answer is permanently tracked right in your history.
All right, Section 3, the intelligence core. With our infrastructure locked in, let's look at the actual brains of the operation. Right now, generative AI is completely revolutionizing underwriting. It's doing the heavy lifting, drafting memos, parsing incredibly complex, unstructured financial documents. We're talking about taking what used to be a grueling 2-hour manual task and shrinking it down to maybe 15 minutes. It frees up your credit officers that actually focus on real risk assessment rather than just mind-numbing data entry. Now, to combat those sophisticated attacks we mentioned earlier, graph neural networks, or GNNs, are stepping up to the plate. These models analyze the intricate relationships between distinct accounts and transactions to instantly map out and block complex fraud rings. You see, traditional models just look at individual, isolated features, but GNNs, they look at the entire web of interactions to spot hidden, illicit connections that a human reviewer would literally never find. And when you combine those GNNs with transformer models, wow! Your platform can instantly spot the sudden behavioral shifts that scream account takeover or synthetic fraud. Transformers use these things called self-attention mechanisms to capture the temporal dependencies in transactions. Basically, they instantly recognize when an account's activity suddenly veers off its normal historical baseline. Next up is Section 4, the XAI compliance mandate. Because, let's be real,
Deploying all this powerful AI means absolutely nothing if regulators come in and shut you down. The clock is ticking relentlessly toward the August 2026 EU AI Act deadline, and that act explicitly classifies AI creditworthiness algorithms as high risk. And even if you operate completely outside the EU, the global standard is rapidly shifting toward these exact same strict requirements, meaning your automated credit decisions must be traceable, explainable, and fully reviewable.
As our sources heavily emphasize, compliance isn't just a one-time paper audit anymore. It requires a living, breathing process that runs right alongside your entire deployment lifecycle. You can't just document your risks at launch, pat yourself on the back, and forget about them. Your system has to capture live behavior, flag deviations, and constantly trace signals back to your risk controls.
To actually survive this level of scrutiny, organizations have to toss out outdated black box AI and adopt modern, glass box explainable AI, or XAI. Every single automated decision has to be crystal clear. Regulators are going to want to see the exact data points that influenced a decision. And those old black box systems, they simply can't provide that granular accountability.
To pull this off, modern platforms are leaning on XAI frameworks, like Shape. Shape is amazing because it translates complex probabilistic math into simple, legally sound reason codes. Then you add in counterfactuals. These automatically generate answers to what-if scenarios for adverse action notices. And finally, partial dependence plots, or PDPs, are used to catch any systemic bias across your entire portfolio. Put all of these together, and you've got an airtight, totally transparent system. All right, our final section, Section 5, building the unified platform. Because having the best AI and the best cloud infrastructure only works if they're actually acting as one cohesive unit.
The platform that wins in 2026 completely stops treating fraud, credit, and compliance as separate silos. Instead, it unifies them into a single, real-time decisioning layer that operates on the exact same inputs. When you do it this way, you slam the door shut on those gaps where synthetic identity fraud slips through and messes up your credit models. Everything happens together, right in real time.
So, how are you going to actually build this? Well, you definitely don't want to just jump straight into a massive migration. First, start with a comprehensive architecture assessment. Next, lay down that automated CI/CD deployment foundation. Then, and this is key, run a low-risk pilot migration to validate your data flows before you move on to continuous optimization. Skipping these steps, that's just the quickest way to guarantee a ton of costly rework.
Okay, I'm going to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. If a regulator walks into your office tomorrow morning, does your current system actually have the structural traceability to answer this question? Can you reconstruct your AI's decision from 6 months ago? Can you pull up the exact data, the exact model version, and the exact logic used for that specific loan decision? If you're building with the modern unified AI native strategies we've walked through today, the answer will be an easy, confident yes. Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer, and I really hope you're walking away ready to build a future of credit decisioning.